They wrap it in sweetness, pastel colours, chocolate, laughter. They tell you Easter is about love, rebirth, and divine resurrection. But if that were true, why does it feel so hollow? Why does something about Easter still feel ritualistic? Because it is. Easter wasn't born in the tomb, it was born in blood. In spring rites, in cycles of sacrifice that predate the church by thousands of years. The truth is, Easter isn't Christian. It never was. It's ancient, pagan, astronomical, and the symbols they still use, eggs, rabbits, sunrise, crosses, they all belong to the old gods. The name Easter doesn't come from the Bible, it comes from Eostre, a dawn goddess of the spring equinox. Her festivals were held around the full moon after the spring equinox, just like Easter is today. In Babylon, she was Ishtar. In Sumer, Inanna, a goddess of fertility, war, and blood. She descended into the underworld and returned, a resurrected queen. Sound familiar? Because the church didn't erase the old rituals, it absorbed them and replaced the goddess with a god, the blood of sacrifice with the blood of Christ. But the timing, the rituals, the symbols, they left those intact. The egg is one of Easter's oldest symbols, but it wasn't always sweet and foil-wrapped. In ancient rites, eggs were dyed red to represent blood, specifically sacrificial blood offered to the earth to ensure fertility and abundance. These weren't cute traditions, they were coded offerings. And the bunny? The hare was sacred to the goddess, a creature of hyper-fertility and lunar rhythms, nocturnal, mysterious, linked to the moon's cycles, not the sun's. That's why Easter is never on the same day. It follows the lunar calendar, not the solar one. It's not about resurrection. It's about rebirth through ritual. The spring equinox marks the awakening. When light returns, the land begins to bloom, and the veil between realms thins. Ancient cultures knew this. They used this time to call on the old gods, to plant seeds not just in soil, but in souls. Sacrifices were made, not just of animals, but of energy. Fear, joy, worship, blood, it all fed into the grid, into the earth's memory. And the same pattern runs today. Only now we don't even know we're participating. They say Easter is about the resurrection, the miracle of life over death. But what if I told you that idea was borrowed? Long before Christ, gods were rising from tombs. Osiris was dismembered and resurrected by Isis. Tammuz, lover of Ishtar, died and rose each spring. Inanna descended into the underworld and returned. Even Baal, the storm god, was ritually killed and revived. These weren't stories, they were seasonal rituals. They mirrored the land, when winter killed and spring resurrected. When they adopted the Christ story, they aligned it with the pagan calendar and placed his resurrection on Ishtar's holy day. The symbols stayed the same, only the character changed. Have you ever wondered why churches hold sunrise services on Easter? Why the worship always faces east? Because the east gate is symbolic. It's the portal of light, the gate of return, of ritual rebirth. In ancient rites, initiates would gather at dawn to greet the sun, reborn after equinox darkness. The Christian sunrise service isn't an invention, it's a continuation. Only now, people don't know why they're watching the sunrise. They stand in awe, but their energy is being harvested. That's the trick. Not stopping the rituals, just changing the names. So the worship continues, but the conscious consent disappears. You think energy harvesting only happens through fear? No, they can harvest joy too. That's why Easter is wrapped in sweetness, laughter, family, chocolate, light. Because energy given unconsciously is still energy given. The pastel colours, the decorated eggs, the spring parades, it all echoes the ancient rites of the goddess, only now the names are changed. The blood is hidden, but the offering remains. Billions give their undirected joy to a system they don't understand. And the ritual is complete, not by force, but through forgetting. They hand you a painted egg, tell you it's tradition, a symbol of spring, of life. But they don't tell you what the egg really was, before the chocolate, before the dye, before the bunny. Because in the oldest rites, the egg wasn't candy, it was cosmic. The egg was the origin of all life, the primordial seed, the womb of the universe. For ancient Egypt, Persia, Vedic India, Greece, they all had myths of a world egg, a golden sphere birthed from sound floating in the waters of the void. It cracked open and the first light was born. Some say it was the soul of the world, others say it was you. The reason they keep this symbol alive is because it still works. The egg is a code, a vessel. In ancient rituals, it represented soul storage. In mystery schools, it was the container of memory. In alchemy, it was the sealed chamber of rebirth. In Saturn cults, it was a prison, because inside every egg is potential. A soul, a spark, a self. But the ritual wasn't just about celebrating fertility, it was about capturing it and then guiding it, or worse, harvesting it. Now the world has shifted. The egg isn't red with blood. It's scanned, tracked, branded. It's digital. They still use the Easter ritual, but now the offering is you. Your data, your attention, your emotional frequency. Every click, every celebration, every unconscious ritual feeds the new egg. The synthetic womb. They're not celebrating life, they're seeding new code inside you. Unless you remember. They show you the egg as a gift, a blessing, a sweet tradition passed down. But in the oldest texts, the egg wasn't a symbol of freedom, it was a cage. A shell, a containment field, a frequency lock, just like the soul, encapsulated in flesh, just like memory, sealed in bone, just like truth, buried in myth. In Gnostic traditions, the egg was the limit of the demiurge, a boundary around the world that kept souls from ascending. The Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail, wrapped around the egg. A warning, you will live, but only inside this, but every shell can break. And in the oldest creation myths, the egg didn't crack from violence. It cracked from vibration, from sound, from word. The Aum, the Logos, the primordial name. This wasn't a bang, it was a pulse. A resonant call that split containment and birthed the original light. And that's what they're trying to mimic every year. That's what all the songs, parades and ceremonies echo. Not to free you, but to simulate the original break and divert its power. Because if you ever heard the real tone, if you ever felt the true hum beneath the lie, you'd shatter the shell from the inside. They don't fear resistance. They fear remembrance. Because when you remember that you are not the vessel, that you are not the cycle, that you are older than this ritual, then the energy stops flowing upward and starts flowing inward. You stop feeding the right and start reclaiming the flame. Because you were never meant to be cracked open by someone else. You were never meant to be dyed, decorated or offered. You were the one who cracked the first shell, who spoke the first word, who burned through the veil. And that fire, it's still in you. The ritual is old, but it's breaking. People are remembering. They're questioning the smiles, the symbols, the strange joy. The harvest is thinning, the matrix is fraying. And the egg, the one wrapped in pastel and performance, is starting to leak. This time you don't paint the egg, you crack it. This time you don't celebrate the resurrection they gave you. You remember the rebirth you came here to bring. And when enough of us stop participating, stop feeding the shell, the ritual ends, the veil lifts, and the light escapes. Not from the tomb, not from the womb, but from you. They told you the egg was a gift, but it was always a container, a contract, a shell meant to hold your light. Until you forgot how to burn. They told you the resurrection was his, but the truth, it's yours. They wrapped you in flowers, distracted you with sweetness, and called it tradition. Deep beneath the symbols, beneath the fake joy, the pastel veils, beneath the old rites and rewritten gods, there is a memory, and it's waking, not to repeat the ritual, not to wait for the sun to rise, but to remember, you were never the offering, you were the flame, and this time, you don't rise for them, you rise for real.